Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hey, welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Excited to tell you this is a milestone show. It's show number 800. And we have some great people on board here tonight. Right next to me here is Ann Whitty, and she is an attorney. We'll be talking about the Portland Hipstock Festival. Over to my side is our joint host, Mr. Casper Leach, and waiting in the wings is Mr. John Cornett, ready to bring us some tunes. But before we get to that, we're going to bring on our infamous Dancy Cannabis Leaves. Well, I thought I would. Okay, we're going to run a little video of our Hempstock Festival. Are those videos ready? Well, no, we're not. We're going to go over to Mr. John Cornett, who's going to play some music. Hey, John. You ready to rock?
We're all prepared tonight. I want to thank Mr. Daniel Lamois for this song. Oh, oh, deep water, black and cold like the night. I stand with arms wide open. I run a twisted mile. I'm a stranger in the eyes of the Maker. I could not see from the fog in my eyes. I could not feel for the fear in my life. From across the great divide, in the distance I saw a light. Jean-Baptiste talking to me with the Maker. My body is bent and broken. My long and dangerous sleep. I can work the fields of Abraham and turn my head away. Not a stranger in the hands of the Maker. Brother John, have you seen the homeless daughters standing there with broken wings? I can see the flaming sword They're over east of Eden, burning in the eyes of the Maker, burning in the eyes of the Maker, burning in the eyes of the Maker. Oh, river, rise from your sleep. Oh, river, rise from your sleep. Oh, river, rise from your sleep.
Mr. John Cornett. Now we're going to do a little hemp news segment here. Oregon's marijuana dispensaries that plan to make recreational sales to people 21 and older must first tell the state health authority and record the birth dates of shoppers, along with the quantities of cannabis they buy, under the draft rules that were issued the day before yesterday, on Wednesday. Marijuana dispensaries are also required to prominently post a sign at the entrance letting consumers know they are either serving both the medical and the recreational market, or that they are a medical-only shop. The guidelines for early recreational sales are the first of several sets of rules to be crafted by the Oregon Health Authority for the marijuana program, according to the program administrator, Steve Wagner. The agency will also issue rules for processors, growers, testing labs, serving sizes, and labeling, according to Wagner. Recreational sales are set to begin on October 1st in medical marijuana dispensaries which choose to become part of the program. Wagner said the public, including dispensary owners, will have about 1 week to comment on these draft rules. Also in the draft rules, dispensary staff members must distribute with every recreational marijuana purchase a state-issued information card about cannabis. The state will continue tracking the names of medical marijuana patients, but recreational shoppers' names will not be tracked. The state will only require that dispensaries record the birth dates of the people making recreational purchases. Dispensaries aren't allowed to sell more than 1/4 of an grams of cannabis to a recreational consumer. Nothing in the rules, however, prevents that customer from going to the next shop down the street to buy more. According to Wagner, he says, quote, "The reality is we don't have a process to prevent the person from going from one dispensary to another. We'll choose to interpret that as a good thing here." The Oregon Court of Appeals on Wednesday refused to declare the smell of marijuana smoke drifting into neighbors' homes as unpleasant. The appeals court ruled that marijuana smoke isn't necessarily offensive to all people, although rotten eggs or raw sewage are physically offensive odors to everyone. According to the Court of Appeals, they wrote, quote, "We are not prepared to declare that the odor of marijuana smoke is the equivalent to the odor of garbage. Indeed, some people undoubtedly find the scent pleasing," end quote. With the appeals court ruling, recreational cannabis users in Oregon may rest assured that smoking cannabis at home shouldn't result in any law enforcement hassles. The appeals court ruling came in the case of Jared William Lang, who was 34 in November of 2012 when an officer with the Philomath Police Department came to his apartment after neighbors reported the smell of marijuana coming from his unit. Across the river in Washington, the bureaucrat who helped implement Washington State's recreational marijuana law and dismantle the state's medical marijuana program is stepping down. Good riddance, I say. Randy Simmons, the deputy director of the Washington State Liquor Control Board, said this year's difficult legislative session played a factor in his decision. Battles erupted as moneyed I-502 business investors lobbied the Washington legislature to fold the state's medical marijuana industry into the recreational side. And that happened, effectively channeling all patients through recreational I-502 stores and shutting down access through medical dispensaries statewide. It was an unappetizing spectacle, with 502 merchants picking over the remains of the medical marijuana community, looking for more profits. Young complained, evidently feeling patients should have uncomplainingly been led down the primrose path to eliminating medical marijuana dispensaries. Young said, quote, It was a hard legislative session. I felt tired of all the battles going on, end quote. Simmons, who's 63, is leaving his job at the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board at the end of August to take a senior administrator's job at the Washington Department of Revenue. He said he's looking forward to a less stressful job. The new cannabis industry seemed to change after I-502 stores opened last summer. According to Simmons, quote, with people hiring lobbyists, it shifted from let's do something exciting to, like everything else in American society, what can I get for me, end quote. Simmons just couldn't resist taking a last shot at the medical marijuana community he evidently so despised. He said, quote, there's a feeling in the medical world that they're entitled, end quote, he said of medical marijuana advocates, and went on, quote, some on the medical side are truly compassionate about patients, some are truly compassionate about making money, end quote. Well, we'll see how Mr. Simmons feels about that when he comes down with cancer, won't we? Over in Ohio, voters will decide this November on a constitutional amendment that seeks to regulate the commercial production and retail sale of cannabis. Proponents of the measure, Responsible Ohio, gathered over 320,000 signatures from registered voters to qualify it for the November electoral ballot. Issue 3, the Marijuana Legalization Amendment, seeks to initially establish 10 state licensed commercial producers, actually the ones who funded this initiative, to provide cannabis to over 1,000 retail outlets. Retailers will be able to dispense cannabis to anyone over the age of 21. The measure would also permit adults to cultivate personal use quantities of cannabis, up to 4 plants yielding no more than 8 ounces of usable product at any one time, just like here in Oregon. They'll be able to grow that at home. Qualified patients seeking to access cannabis for therapeutic purposes will be able to obtain the plant from retailers at reduced wholesale rates. The full text of this proposed Ohio amendment is online at responsibleohio.com. That's responsibleohio.com. State lawmakers opposed to the plan have placed a competing measure, Issue 2, on the November ballot that seeks to prohibit state regulators from permitting the limited production of, quote, any Schedule I controlled substance, end quote. If voters approve both measures, Issue 2 states that, quote, the entire proposed constitutional marijuana amendment shall not take effect, end quote. According to an April 2015 Quinnipiac University poll, Ohio voters favor permitting adults to legally possess small amounts of marijuana for personal use by a margin of 52 to 44%. And that is the end of our hemp news segment tonight. And I'd like to welcome on, right behind me, Ann Whitty. Hi, welcome back, Ann. Hey, Casper.
Howdy. May I say something to Mr. Simmons?
Go right ahead.
We are entitled. We are entitled to have the medical benefits of medical marijuana. We are entitled to have a plant that gives us the right to cure ourselves in a natural way. We are entitled to our privacy, just like many other people who do have, who do have private rights with their medical prescriptions, like diabetics who don't have to announce that they are a diabetic, or cancer patients who are taking cancer medication when they go back to work are not required to let everybody know what's going on with it. We are entitled to our privacy, and we are entitled as consumers to be able to consume recreational or social use of cannabis, just like you seem to think that you are entitled to use your liquor, your aspirin bottles, and be entitled to your privacy between you and your physician as to what type of elements you have. You think we're a little miffed off about being treated separately? We are. You think we're trying to be treated separately than you? No. We want to be treated just like everybody else. What we want is the right to be able to use the plant that we are entitled to use, that was given to us by the creator of the universe. So, yeah, chew on that for a while. Thank you, Paul.
We're having a bad tie night here.
I know.
Brett tie problem. Your tie's fine. Yeah, you don't have tie.
Well, when you're as pretty as she
microphone.
is, anything she puts on looks good on her.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Absolutely.
So, Ann, you have been working as an attorney with us for a long time. In fact, we first met you years ago when you came in to do our soundboard on this show.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
it's been many years. We won't talk
Yeah.
about how many.
Yeah, I've been doing this now this will be 19 years in October.
So you're helping Paul with the hemp stock. So I guess we're all set to go. Then everybody should start getting their tents ready and their flyers ready. And
do you want to
Absolutely.
tell our viewers what's been going on? Give a little background about issue, or should I?
Well, it turns out that if you apply for a park permit to have a party or an event and they deny you the permit, you have a right to appeal to the city council. And Hempstock did it last year, and the city council ordered the City Parks Bureau to let us have a shot at it. So immediately they denied the permit for 2015, and we're allowed to appeal that to the city council. It's taken a while because we did a little quick step in the court, but now we're going back to the city council at the end of this month, next Thursday, and I think tonight we'll show you some of the evidence we're going to present to show that, in fact, we did comply with all of the requirements the city council put on us. What they're saying is that we shouldn't be allowed to have this event about hemp in the park because people come and smoke marijuana there, and we can't stop it. And it's as if that doesn't happen at any other event that's held in the park in Portland. So we're going to show that we took all the steps that they suggested, that they required, that they ordered us to take to have, and if we didn't stop all the smoking, well, nobody can.
Well, now my question too is, we have medical marijuana users that have cards that allow them to use medical marijuana,
But not in a public place.
and there's also recreational use allowed, pretty much like liquor.
Not
right?
in a public place again.
But we have these beer events where everybody shows up and drinks their beers up and down one street and down another and celebrates the brews.
They're not supposed to
Well,
do that in a
there's
public
no
place.
drinking in public parks or places either, but they make an exception for beer and
Right.
wine.
That's what I was getting at.
And they
And
just made an
alcohol.
exception in Seattle for the Seattle Hemp Fest.
Right.
They allowed
For
smoking in the park.
marijuana, and allowed the smoking in the park.
And so on top of that, it is one of the largest revenue drawing events in the city, isn't it, Paul? Many vendors come in, people come in from out of state, tourists come in and spend money here.
Well, until the city put all those security guards all around, seizing everybody's merchandise, and
We had 90% of the people at last year's Hempstock turned back because the security were so rude to them trying to come in. Now, the city told us several months before the event that they didn't want to talk to me anymore. They wanted us to hire someone else to deal with. And they gave us a list of 6 people and then told those 6 people that they shouldn't take this job. But one of them did and required a $12,000 payment. And then they also said we had to hire 40 security people to work at $25 an hour during the entire event. Now, in the past, we have had 5 or 6 paid security people and never had any problems. There's never been any violence or any arrests or anything. But we went ahead and complied and added altogether about $75,000 in additional expenses to our event. Then 90% of the people who came to do, we were not in control of any of the security guards, we were told. The police would control them. And they were so rude to everyone coming in. Unlike the Blues Festival, there's a little sidewalk that runs along the south side of the Hawthorne Bridge, and they made us fence one side of the sidewalk and the other side. And at first they said there was a pathway between them, but then they closed that down after half a day and said they had to go through the front gate. Now, inside the event, there were several vendors giving away lighters, and people were buying pipes. Well, once you went out of the event, if you tried to go back in the other side of the event, the security people took away your pipes and your lighters and were incredibly rude to our guests, to such a degree that 90% of the people who came to the gate decided they didn't want to go through that gauntlet and went somewhere else. So, I think it's like, as you had said earlier today, Ann, it's like they had told us that you cannot allow rain during your event. And if there was some rain, well, it's your fault and you can't have another event. But there were 3 points, right?
Yeah.
In this
Complaint.
Denial.
Saying that our denial.
Letter.
And what are those 3 points? You want to?
That we did not announce sufficiently that people were not allowed to smoke marijuana in the event. And In fact, they say they heard us saying to people where they could smoke, announcing from the stage where they could smoke. We'll play you some later of what was actually said from the stage, but you'll see that we weren't telling people where they could go smoke.
And then the other one was that that was basically stated
that was
two
that
times.
we didn't do enough to stop smoking, as you can see by number 1. We didn't announce enough, and that allowed people to smoke. And then they said we didn't do enough to stop people from selling marijuana.
At booths or inside our event.
When in fact, as the evidence they presented showed, as soon as Mr. Stanford was told that someone was selling, he said, get them out now. And they, within a half an hour, were gone.
But according to their complaint, they observed it on Saturday, and they observed it again on Sunday at one particular booth. And I believe that booth, by the way, was agent provocateur, someone that the police had sent in to harass us. A fellow by the name of Pork Chop, kind of an embarrassing guy. But one of those confidential, reliable police informants, and he was sent there to hurt us.
Well, I have a question.
Hold on, let me finish my little story here.
All right.
Anyway, so I said on Saturday, they said they saw it on Saturday, they said they saw it again on Sunday, and we didn't throw them out, but they told me at about 2:30 on Sunday afternoon that was happening. I immediately said, throw the guy out. And so now we're accused of not doing that. Now you had a question?
2. First of all, doesn't a pork chop come from a pig? Just saying. All right. And secondly, the amount of effort and money that you've thrown at the city and paid the city a lot of money, and the money that we bring, why wouldn't it just be less hassle and cheaper to go and find a farmer with 10 acres and rent it and do an event there and leave it all out of the city
It's a
pocket?
free speech issue and a political speech issue. You know, we're not here to have a smoke out. We're here to advocate for the benefits of industrial hemp and for the adult social use of cannabis. I would like to see designated smoking areas, just like at the Brew Fest. There are designated drinking areas.
Right.
And I think we should be allowed to have designated smoking areas. And in fact, that's what they arranged up in Seattle. But the main point they made was we were not telling people not to smoke at our event. Well, we have a little video clip.
Or near it.
Or near it. We have a little video clip. Let's run that clip.
We have to follow the rules of the park, which are that this year we are a non-smoking, drug-free, family-friendly event.
Remember, we are doing a non-smoking, family-friendly event, so Hey, oh, by the way, this is a drug-free, smoke-free, family-friendly event. I remind you, do not smoke marijuana on the Hipstock grounds. Don't smoke marijuana on the grounds at all. This is not National Offer a Copper Ballgame Day. All right, thank you. I remind you, this is no smoking, no drugs, family-friendly. Who we have coming? This is a smoke-free, drug-free, family-friendly environment. Like I said before, free.
You know, this event right here is the smoke-free event. It's a family-friendly event, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate all you guys respecting those rules.
This is a smoke-free, drug-free, family-friendly environment.
Everybody down there.
Right?
All right. Now, I want to remind you, Hempstock is still a non-smoking, drug-free, family-friendly event, and thank you for not smoking. We really appreciate the respect that you've been showing us.
I remind you, it's smoke-free, drug-free, and family-friendly. Right? I remind you that the Portland Hempstock is a smoke-free, drug-free, family-friendly event. Right? Because we believe in irony. It's the only place in Portland you can't smoke weed on a Sunday.
The message I want to get out is that marijuana is good. There's no reason for it to be prohibited. Marijuana is good for us. It's good for our bodies. It helps our health and longevity. It helps the health of our planet. When we stop using petrochemicals and start using hemp for fuel, we're going to change the whole economic paradigm. Instead of our money going into the hands of Exxon, Shell, the Saudi sheiks, the Nigerian despots, and their Swiss bank accounts. The money will be going to our farmers and into our communities and realign our whole economic system. As my late great friend Gatewood Galbraith said, the people who brought us marijuana prohibition are the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches.
Yeah!
And our job is to restore hemp, and that's what this is about. This event is about educating the public, showing that we are not criminals. We are good citizens. We can follow whatever rules they want us to follow.
Do you want me to help you with that?
But we aren't going away. They're not going to lock us all up. They're not going to continue the lie that marijuana is harmful, because it's not. I look forward to the day when we can openly use cannabis in this park, just like we do in Seattle. This year, we followed these rules to show that we can meet whatever requirements they throw at us.
Even if they suck.
Even if they suck, and they do suck. You know, we have to pay these security guys $25 an hour, each of the 40 of them, to be here 12 hours a day, and they're not under our control, they're under the police's control. The police do not want us to legalize marijuana because they want to keep their gravy train going. They want to continue getting those corrupt dollars. They want to continue seizing our marijuana and our marijuana gardens so they can sell it on the black market and put it into their pinch. They want to seize our property. They want to seize our money. They want to seize everything we've got, and they don't give a shit about us. You know, well, we're here to tell them that marijuana is a powerful tool that enables us to examine reality and see the truth. And they don't want that. They want to tell us what reality is. They want to tell us that marijuana is a bad thing, but it's a good thing. So we will continue to educate them with truth and with love, because we're good citizens. We've got nothing to be ashamed of. So I want to urge each and every one of you to register and vote. Vote yes on Measure 91. It's a much better bill than they have in Washington. It's a lot better than what they have in California. It'll help us establish a new industry here in this state. Put Oregon on the cutting edge of exciting new economic development. So we need you all to register to vote, and get your family and friends to register to vote, and educate them that this is a good bill. You know, nothing's perfect, but we can't sacrifice the good to the perfect. We've got to take this and vote in favor of it, because it's going to help us open lots of new businesses and restore hemp for fuel, fiber, and food. So I want to thank you all for going through the gauntlet that the city of Portland, and mainly the Portland Police Bureau and their executives, not the officers on the beat, they're our friends, really. But it's those executives that depend on the prohibition dollars that are making us go through these stringent requirements. But we're not going away. We're going to be here, and we are going to prevail. We are going to win. We are going to restore hemp for fuel, fiber, food, and medicine, and adult social use. I want to thank all you folks for coming again. We'll be back here next year at the Portland waterfront, and hopefully we'll pass Measure 91. We'll have adult smoking sections in the park. And we will restore hemp. Thank you all for coming again.
So we did everything in our power to follow those rules.
Well,
And
now
for-
you see why they want to stop him. They don't want that spoken. They don't want that to be big and loud for 2 days. That's what they're trying to do. They don't care. Sorry. That's my view. I love that speech, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. If you're watching on Friday night, August 21st, 2015, you can call us. Otherwise, you're watching a repeat. Don't call that number. Might get something else. But so we have a hearing coming up in front of the Portland City Council, and it's next Thursday, the 27th, at 2 o'clock in City Hall, and you're invited to come down and tell the city what you think about what happened at the Hempstock Festival last year. So we're going to have a number of attorneys that will come and talk about what they saw as officers of the court. They have a responsibility to be truthful and honest and ethical. And we're going to play these videos and some other videos and show that we did everything in our power to follow their rules. And for them to lie, because that's what they're doing, they're lying, for them to continue to lie to try to shut down our event is not fair, and we're not going to stand for it. So there you have it.
What if you called it a big block party instead? Would that be any different?
It's the Hempstock Festival. It's our 11th annual Hempstock Festival. So we want the event to continue until we can replace petroleum. That's our goal, is to burn hemp fuel, hemp oil for petroleum. And once we allow the cultivation of hemp without regard to its THC content, but with regard to the most productive varieties for hemp seed and fiber production, we'll replace most of the petroleum and petrochemicals out there with non-toxic, sustainable hemp fuel. And solar, too. We have a caller? We have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello, Paul.
Yes.
Hey, gang, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I dug that piece of video there. The Prophet Paul. yes, the Prophet Paul. And you said hopefully you'll be here next year. Well, we're here. So, hi to Casper, too, and the unidentified lady. I didn't catch her name.
So did you have a question or anything
else?
Yes,
I did, Paul. I talked to you about roughly 5 or 6 months ago, and I asked about, how when July 1st comes around, and we were talking about flowering, about dark and light cycles. I'm from Portland here, and I told you about I was going to get 4 babies from a friend, and he brought me 4 pineapple chunk. And I need to know something about this strain. They show no sign yet of pre-flower or anything. They're about probably 3 feet tall, kind of bushy, not really tall. And I just wanted to know what you knew about the supposedly pure variety of pineapple chunk. Or anything you could tell me about flowering time and anything you could possibly lay on me, man. I'd sure appreciate.
Flowering time varies. The same strain can be harvested at 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks and have a different cannabinoid profile. When it comes to genetics, I don't know if there's any such thing as pure genetics. I don't think that's those two words belong together.
I don't even think that's a possibility,
genetics
really.
mix all the time, and we're all amalgam of everything that's come before, and it's hard to say there's anything specifically pure about a strain of cannabis. But in most of the varieties of cannabis we see out there are blends of indica and sativa varieties.
Correct. I get you there, and I'll just lay something on you real quick. About 20 years ago, a friend gave me just some spare little bag seeds, and I put them in some black gold and dumped them in a little pot on a sun porch. And right around my birthday, they were already half flowering. I mean, beautiful, beautiful buds. And then some dope went and stole them. And I was able to get a couple little cuts off there first for my own personal enjoyment. It was quite tasty, and they were very indica, just like the ones I have here. I mean, they exhibit no sativa, no traits of sativa whatsoever. Short, fat, chunky little.
You know, I
leaves.
like them all. I like sativas. I like indicas. I like various hybrids. Really, a lot of it has to do with the terpene profile, the whole flavors and taste. THC and the cannabinoids really don't have a flavor. All the flavors come from these aromatic hydrocarbons known as terpenes. And so, and those have a medicinal or physical effect as well. So,
And that's why I like using a vaporizer, because using a vaporizer, you can actually taste the way the plant smells. I had never experienced that before until using a vaporizer. And you know, sometimes you'll open your bag and you go, oh, that smells so good. I wonder what it would taste like if I could taste it. And with your vaporizer, you surely can.
Well, I can't afford a vaporizer, just good old zigzags or the homemade bong. But I would ask Casper and Paul, both of you, maybe somebody's got some brain cells more so than myself. Most of the times I've had indica, it's been really early, real early flowering, and there's no sign of any pre-flowers or anything yet. And I'm just wondering, what the heck could it be? The light cycle, just is it going to pop all of a sudden? Is this going to just happen bang overnight, or?
well, what is that? What was your question?
I'm just wondering why I have no sign of pre-flowering, any flower formation whatsoever. They're nice and bushy. They're, like I say, they're over 3 feet tall now, and there's virtually no sign. I'm just wondering, is the light cycle still?
Did you grow from seeds?
Pardon me?
Did you grow from seeds? Or
No, they were clones from a friend.
Well, it's just that variety. It depends on the amount of light they're getting. Are there night lights that might illuminate it that would slow down their photocycle? You should see buds start forming here in the next day if you're growing outdoors.
That's what I was hoping, and there is virtually no sign. I'm getting a little tiny white, just tiny, just to show me they're females. That's
watching.
about all.
That's going to change, I promise you.
I will
thanks
take your
for your
word.
call.
You are Paul the Prophet.
Oh, and one more thing. If you go to
I don't know about that.
If you go to Time4Hemp, the number 4, hemp.com, you can find out how to get a free vaporizer. There's in the player, there's a little MP3 you can listen to, and just listen to how you can get yourself a free vaporizer from KDK Distributors. So
yeah, those are great.
How
people.
cool!
I've
How
known,
cool is that?
A number of people to get a free vaporizer. So check out his website. Maybe you write him a letter, tell him why you deserve a free vaporizer, and you might be surprised. They're giving away, I think, like one every week or something.
They give away about one every week. They pull your name out of the hat, and if they don't pull your name out that week, they leave your name in. So the following week, it will eventually get pulled.
Thanks again.
Very cool. Hey, thank you guys for everything you do. Thank you again.
Glad to do it. You're welcome. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. Hey, this is Rick in Vancouver.
Hey, Rick.
How goes it? Thanks for your work, Paul. Appreciate it.
Glad to do it.
Okay. Hey, I'm in Vancouver looking at the, I guess you call them the Catch-22 laws that are starting to show up here with all the changes they've made. And I'm looking at the official booklet issued by the state about resales and giveaways. And it says it remains a felony for anyone but a licensed retailer to sell or provide marijuana to anyone else. And I'm interpreting that to mean you can't even give anything to anybody, as what it says. Can you give me some insight on that?
Well,
You're not a lawyer.
Someone is
so I won't
giving a
ask you for
patient
legal.
marijuana, they can give that patient marijuana. If that patient's legal to have marijuana and the person who's growing it is giving it to them is legal, then both ends of that transaction are legal. If the person who's giving it to the patient, there are a number of dispensaries in a lot of jurisdictions. Those are supposed to be closed down under Washington Senate Bill 5052 that the Washington Liquor Control Board, now the Washington Liquor and Cannabis Board, put into place. But you know, what they don't know won't hurt you.
Yeah, I understand that, but this is more towards the I understand the medical side. This is more towards the recreational side.
Yeah.
And it's what they don't know won't hurt. But it I guess technically then still though is, like it says, it remains a felony for anyone to sell or provide marijuana to anyone. So
yeah, well, you know,
I
in
couldn't
Washington,
give anything to anyone without technically creating a felony.
I think if you're giving it away for free, even if the police knew about it, they wouldn't charge you with anything as long as you're giving away less than an ounce. Now, in Washington State, which is different from Oregon, in Washington State, you can have up to 28 grams. Once you get to 28.5 grams or over 28, then you're guilty of a misdemeanor with a mandatory minimum 1 day in jail, or at least some time in jail. Now, that's from 28 grams to 40 grams, it's a misdemeanor. But once you get to over 40 grams in Washington State, it becomes a felony. So the people who have been lobbying the legislature haven't tried to change that. They've just tried to put the medical marijuana program out of business. And they've been able to do that. Unfortunately, patients fought it. I read a news story here earlier tonight about the resigning head of the Washington Liquor and Cannabis Board, saying that he feels that he was tired of the battles that were caused in the legislature. Well, he was the cause of those battles by curtailing patients' rights. You know, they're standing in the face of history. Marijuana and cannabis will become less and less regulated. It's not as bad as alcohol. And I hope to see when we can grow high THC cannabis for its seed oil, and it will replace petroleum then.
Right, and I'd like to echo, I'd like to see a heck of a lot more research being done on these components that are in it to help the, well, you name it, PTSD especially, and to go on from there. So, okay, Paul, thanks for your answers, and good luck, and keep with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
And you're right, a new hemp industry would move this country forward so quickly and would generate such a strong economic base, stimulate the job market in such an amazing way, and bring in new revenues for taxes into the politician coffers, that it would just be astounding. And I don't use that word often.
Well, you know, there's also an initiative being circulated in Washington State right now. It's I-739. It'll allow people to share marijuana. Right now it's illegal, as that gentleman pointed out, to share marijuana. It will allow people to grow 15 plants of cannabis in their home and have what those 15 plants produce. And so at the Seattle Hemp Fest last week, we were circulating those petitions at our booths, and we even purchased and donated a booth to I-739 so they could gather more signatures by one of the stages at the Seattle Hemp Fest. So if you're up in Washington State and you want the right to be able to share cannabis and grow your own cannabis, as by natural rights we should be allowed to grow the most productive crop and the oldest crop purposely sown by human beings, but no, we've been denied that right. I-739 will allow you to do that in Washington State. So look out there and get I-739. Just do a quick search on that on the internet. We have a studio audience member who has a comment here. Go right ahead, Judy.
No comment, just a quick question, and I hope you will answer with good specifics.
I'll try.
For those of us that want to be part of the crew that we know we need on Thursday at 2 o'clock for this hearing, where specifically?
It's in City Hall, which is right across from the courthouse. It's next to the Portland building. It's the 4-story marble building at, what is it, 1001?
1221.
1221.
Between 4th
Southwest
and 5th.
4th or 5th. One of those.
Between them.
Yeah. So that's where you go. So again, we can certainly use your help if you want to come down and tell the City Council what your experience was at last year's Hemp Stock Festival, or why you think we should be allowed to have our Hemp Stock Festival. Come down to City Hall this coming Thursday, the 27th.
And it will start at 2, and you have to sign up, and you have to say whether you're for us or against us, and they'll allow everybody 3 minutes. So come down early and sign up. Come down at 1:30 if you can.
Well, it don't take long to say you're a bunch of ass clowns. You
don't want
to
to say
your
that.
mind.
You want to be polite. You don't want to be harassing these folks. The mayor, you know, last year the Parks Department denied us this permit, and the police did that. And we went before Mayor Charlie Hale and the former head of the Portland Parks Bureau, Amanda Fritz, and City Councilman Steve Novak. Those were the only 3 members of the City Council that showed up. And in the end, they gave us our permit over the objections of the Parks Department and the police. And we're certainly hoping that Mayor Charlie Hales and the City Council will do the same thing this Thursday.
Well, then I will be muzzled.
But you don't want to call them nasty names. You want to be polite, stress your points, give logical reasons, tell truthful statements about what you saw, and that's what I would ask you to do. We have another caller on the line standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Hey, you're welcome.
When I fill out my taxes, I use the long form because I can deduct medical expenses. I have quite a few. Coming October 1st, when we can buy recreational marijuana from the dispensaries, if I purchase them, I'll be using it for medical purposes. Can I deduct that from my taxes? Because I'm using for
to
medical.
be able to deduct medical expenses on your taxes, you have to spend at least 10% of your income on your medical expenses.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
I mean,
so
I
you
have
should
a
be able,
big
then
lot
you will
of
be
medical
allowed to
expenses,
deduct it.
yeah.
It's been shown, the IRS agrees for medical patients who have a permit that it is a tax deductible expense.
But for us who do not have a permit.
Then it's not as easy to make that claim, but you can certainly make it as long as you spend at least 10% of your income on medical expenses.
Okay, so if I keep the receipts from the dispensary and...
Yeah, then you can claim it, and if you're audited, then you can explain why you think you should be able to do that.
If we're not going to be taxing anything right away...
Yeah, there won't be any tax on medical marijuana.
But eventually there will be a tax on recreational that there is not on medical, and you should consider if you're using it for medical purposes to get your card.
I see. Okay. Hey, thank you for this information.
And that leaves a question to me. You know how people will have a business dinner where they'll have steak and wine, and they'll write that off on their taxes?
They can write up half of it nowadays.
Oh, well, how about if you have steak and marijuana? Is it the same thing now? Can you write the half the cost if it's for a business meeting?
Sure, you can write it off. Will they approve it? Who knows?
Yeah, it's only if they question it and audit it.
That's not tax advice.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not a tax attorney. So that's the disclaimer. Let's see. I think we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. No other caller. Okay. Well, we do have some other film clips, but Ann, what other things do you think we should be talking about with our Hempstock Festival before the City Council? I'll put you on the spot.
Well, I just was reading about President Jimmy Carter and Iran, and it struck me that it was when oil was discovered in Iran that the United States government decided to send the CIA in and stabilize the place so that the Shah and his crew of hooligans
could overthrow a democratically elected government. That's what
Yes.
happened. We went in and overthrew a democratically elected government and destabilized Iran and put a monarch in his place who cruelly repressed his people. So I could see why the Iranians are mad at us.
And the reason we did that was oil. And if we acknowledge that the powers that declare the interest of this country would go that far to stop, to maintain control of oil, they want us to depend on oil. Of course they're willing to stop this oil that we can grow and run our diesel engines on as it was intended by Herr Diesel, Dr. Diesel. This is a speech that has to be made, and Paul's the best one to make it. He started to make it up there on that stage, and he has an opportunity to make it good at Hempstock. This is a very serious matter for the interest of our entire country and everybody in it, that we would stop our dependence on oil that is dug out of the ground, and that we have to overturn countries and governments and kill people and all for oil. It has to stop.
And
That's
instead
why
of the
we need to
money
speak about it.
going to these capital-intensive industries, we will put it into farmers' hands. Well, you know, we are just about out of time. You want to say anything in closing, Casper?
Absolutely. Please make it a point to go to timeforhemp.com. Check us out. We are on iTunes now as well as iHeartRadio. Lots of great apps to download into your smart devices and to share with your friends. And remember, anytime you hear me, you know that it's time for hemp.
Ann, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Well, if you want to come to the hearing on Thursday, it's at the City Hall and it's in the council chambers, and you should probably get there at 1:30 so you can sign up if you want to speak on our behalf, and keep it short and sweet. And thank you all for listening.
Be polite, but we'd love to have you down there and help us restore hemp. Here's Mr. John Cornett.
For 12,000 years, she's healed our lives. For 1,000 more, she will brave the fire. She's my Joan of Arc, reaches through the flames, says, "Come to me, I can heal your pain." She's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane, she's my Mary Jane. She comes to me, gives me sight, she holds me up in the heat of the fight. She's my Rosa Parks, holds her seat. She's amazing grace, she is oh so sweet. Safe from hell in the fire of the night.